Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, January 18th, 2021. Today I'm going to recap the weekend's NFL Divisional Round games, the weekend and yesterday and Friday's NHL, NBA, and college basketball games. Look ahead to today's games. It's Martin Luther King Day, so we're going to have some matinee games, NFL coaching news that I would like to get to, and my best bet of the day. All right, we'll start in the NFL. 4 divisional round games and 4 results that I correctly predicted, not just against the spread and total, but straight up as well. So my 4-0 weekend in divisional round with my picks for the podcast and straight up. Packers over the Rams 32-18. Packers move on to the NFC Championship game for the first time since the 2014 season, in that game, in which it was the game that they had the lead in Seattle, and then the blown onside kick, and the rest is history, and the Seahawks went to their second consecutive Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers was tremendous, 23 of 36, 296 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jared Goff, 21 of 27, 174 yards, and the touchdown as the Packers move on to the NFC Championship game. Bills over the Ravens 17-3. So the Bills go to the AFC Championship game for the first time in a long time since the 90s. Buffalo 13-3 on the regular season, now in the AFC title game. Baltimore, disappointing finish from them, obviously. Josh Allen 23 of 37, 206 yards and a touchdown. He wasn't good, but the Bills found a way to win. Lamar Jackson was just worse. 14 of 24, 162 yards and a pick. And that pick obviously was a pick six, in which was the difference in the game in my mind. 101-yard pick six for Taron Johnson to help lead the Bills to the AFC title game. Chiefs over the Browns 22-17. The Chiefs were without Patrick Mahomes for the last quarter and a half due to a concussion. And they were in danger of losing this game, but Chad Henne made a great play on 4th and 1 that really helped them win, and really did win them the game. And then a big scramble on 3rd down and long that helped them as well, as the Chiefs go to their 3rd consecutive AFC title game. And it looks like that Mahomes will be fine, will be good to go a week from yesterday, which will be the AFC title game against the Bills, in which should be a really fun game. And those two teams obviously met in the regular season. The Chiefs won that game in Buffalo by double digits. And that was before the Bills really got going and found themselves. As Patrick Mahomes, 21 of 30, 255 yards and a touchdown. Baker Mayfield, 23 of 37, 204 yards, a touchdown and an interception. And Chad Henne, 6 of 8 for 66 yards and an interception. But yeah, the Chiefs better hope Patrick Mahomes plays on Sunday, and I think he will. And the Buccaneers over the Saints, 30-20, as Tom Brady makes his first ever NFC Championship game and makes it to the Final Four for the 4th time in 5 years, because don't forget the Patriots were in 3 straight Super Bowls. And now he's in the conference title game for the 4th time in 5 years, the 5th time in 6 years, and I want to say the 6th time in 7 years, and the 7th time in 8 years. The last time Tom Brady did not make the conference championship, other than last year, was when they lost in I don't remember. That's crazy. The last time Brady wasn't in the conference championship game, other than the year against the Titans, which was last year, was the year against the Jets. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. So the 9th time in 10 years where Tom Brady is playing in the Final Four, which is incredible. And as I mentioned, his first ever NFC Championship game, as they'll be playing the Packers. And now speculation will lead on the other side with Drew Brees and his future in the NFL. Obviously, his contract expires at the end of the season. And there's potential that he retires and then goes to NBC and becomes their lead analyst, replacing Chris Collinsworth, which would be really, really enticing for a variety of reasons. And that's all due respect to the great Chris Collinsworth, who does a tremendous job on Sunday Night Football every year without Michaels. Tom Brady, 18-3, 399 yards and 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees, probably his worst playoff game of his career, 19-3, 434 yards, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions. As the Bucs in year one of Tom Brady make the NFC Championship game. And it's going to be interesting to see Brady versus Rodgers, enticing quarterback matchup. And on the other side, that's enticing as well, assuming Patrick Mahomes is good to go with him versus Josh Allen. So the two veterans that are Canton bound against two young stars. We know one of them's Canton bound, but the other one could very well be joining him if he continues on that trajectory. And I'm talking about, obviously, Josh Allen. So on tomorrow's show, we're going to do a little bit of a postmortem for the 4 teams that were eliminated. We did a little Saints postmortem, but we'll do postmortem for the 4 teams on tomorrow's podcast. Now we'll move on to the NHL, who had an interesting weekend, as we will go over those results from Friday to yesterday and look ahead to a busy Martin Luther King Day slate for today. Capitals over the Sabres 2-1. The Capitals 2-0, Buffalo 0-2-0. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Rasmus Ristolainen. Number 2 star of the game didn't have a point, but just played very well. Lars Eller, number 1 star of the game with a goal, Jacob Vrana. And Vitek Vanecek in his NHL debut, 28 saves, which was an impressive over a Buffalo team, which I think is very improved. Penguins lose at the Flyers 5-2. The Flyers go to 2-0. Penguins 0-2-0. Number 3 star of the game with a goal, Oscar Lindblom. Number 2 star of the game with 31 saves on 33 shots, Carter Hart. And the number 1 star with a hat trick and an assist, Travis Kelce. Lightning over to Blackhawks 5-2. The Lightning 2-0. Blackhawks 0-2-0. Number 3 star of the game didn't have a point, just had a great game, Victor Hedman. Number 2 star of the game with a goal and assist, Blake Coleman. And the number 1 star of the game with 35 saves on 37 shots, Andre Vasilevsky. Senators over to Maple Leafs 5-3. An impressive win for Ottawa, who starts the year 1-0-0. Toronto 1-1-0. Number 3 star of the game with a goal and assist, John Tavares. Number 2 star of the game with a goal, Thomas Chabot. Number 1 star of the game with a goal and 2 assists, Brady Tkachuk. Avalanche over the Blues 8-0. What a bounce-back win for the Avalanche after losing on opening night to the Blues. 1-1-0. St. Louis 1-1-0. And Gabriel Landeskog had 2 goals in this game. Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen, great games. Kel McCarr had a good game. Nazem Kadri. So, just incredible effort by the Avalanche. And it was an avalanche on Friday night in Colorado. Saturday results, Devils over the Bruins 2-1 in overtime on a goal by Ty Smith. Or I'm sorry, it was Igor Sharangovich. I thought it was Ty Smith, but it was Sharangovich got the game winner for New Jersey, who goes to 1-0-1. Boston 1-0-1. The number 3 star of the game with 29 saves on 31 shots, Yaroslav Halak. Number 2 star of the game with 27 saves on 28 shots, Mackenzie Blackwood. And the number 1 star of the game with the overtime winner, Igor Sharangovich. Coyotes over the Sharks 5-3. The Coyotes 1-0-1. San Jose 1-1-0. Number 3 star of the game with 31 saves on 34 shots, Antti Ranta. Number 2 star of the game with 3 assists, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Number 1 star of the game with 2 goals, Phil Kessel. Red Wings over the Hurricanes 4-2. An impressive win for Detroit, who goes to 1-1-0. Carolina 1-1-0. The number 3 star of the game with 2 assists, Philip Zadina. Number 2 star of the game with 2 goals, Dylan Larkin. And number 1 star of the game with a goal, Robbie Fabry. Maple Leafs over the Senators 3-2. Good bounce back win for Toronto after losing to Ottawa the first time. 2-1-0. Ottawa 1-1-0. Number 3 started the game with the goal. Rookie Tim Stutzel. Number 2 started the game with a goal and assist, Austin Matthews. And number 1 started the game with a goal and 2 assists, Mitch Marner. Canadiens over the Oilers 5-1. The Canadiens 1-0-1. Edmonton 1-2-0. Number 3 started the game with 2 goals, Thomas Tatar. Number 2 started the game with 2 goals, Jeff Petrie. And the number 1 started the game with 34 saves on 35 shots, Carey Price. Predators over the Blue Jackets 5-2. The Preds 2-0-0. Columbus 0-2-0. Number 3 started the game with a goal, Philip Forsberg. Number 2 started the game with a goal, Luke Kunin. And the number 1 started the game with a goal, Brad Richardson. Wild over the Kings 4-3 in overtime on a goal by Marcus Johansson. Wild 2-0-0. Kings 0-0-2. Number 3 started the game with the overtime winner, Marcus Johansson. Number 2 started the game with 2 assists, Jeff Carter. Number 1 started the game with 40 saves on 44 shots, Jonathan Quick. Flames over the Canucks 3-0. Flames 1-0-1. Vancouver 1-2-0. Number 3 started the game with a goal and assist, Matthew Tkachuk. Number 2 started the game with an assist. You got Andrew Magapani, and the number 1 started the game with 32 saves on 32 shots against his former team, Jacob Markstrom, in what was a revenge game for him against his former team. Golden Knights over the Ducks 2-1 in overtime on a goal by Max Pacioretty, as Vegas goes to 2-0-0, Anaheim 0-1-1. Number 3 started the game with 2 assists, Mark Stone. Number 2 started the game with a goal, William Karlsson. And the number 1 started the game with the overtime winner, Max Pacioretty. Only 2 games yesterday. Penguins over the Capitals 4-3 in a shootout as they get their first win. They are now 1-2-0. Washington 2-0-1. Number 3 started the game with a goal and assist, Alex Ovechkin. Number 2 started the game with a goal, Marcus Pettersson. And the number 1 started the game with an assist and the shootout winner, Jake Gensel. All right, big slate today at 12 o'clock on NBCSN. You have the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings, a game that I don't think should be on NBCSN because the Red Wings are just terrible. Although they did just win against Carolina, which is a really good win. Columbus minus 180, Red Wings plus 155, over under 5.5 over is even money, unders minus 120. Minus 1.5 for Columbus is plus 155, and plus 1.5 for Detroit is minus 180. I'm taking Columbus puck line minus 1.5 and plus 155. I think it's very valuable. I don't think the Red Wings are very good. And I think Columbus, I'm still banking on them to turn it on. So give me Columbus minus 1.5 and plus 155. Doesn't matter who's in net. I think that Columbus should be able to beat Detroit on the road without fans. 5 o'clock on NBCSN, you have the Bruins and the Islanders. Bruins minus 140, Isles plus 120, over under 5.5, overs plus 105, unders minus 125. Bruins puck line at minus 1.5 is 2-1, and Islanders puck line at plus 1.5 is minus 240. I'm taking the Islanders as an underdog at plus 120. I just think that the Islanders at home and a national TV spot in what I consider to be somewhat of a prove-it game for them will go out and play hard. Barry Trotz will have them ready to go. And I'm going to say that the Islanders get it done on home ice tonight. So give me the Islanders plus 120 straight up. 7 o'clock, the Jets and the Maple Leafs. The Jets are a plus 145 underdog. Toronto's minus 170. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 120. Under is even money. Jets plus 1.5 is minus 180. Maple Leafs minus 1.5 is plus 155. I'm going to take the over 6.5 and minus 120. I think that's a lock. Anytime you have 2 erratic goalies and 2 high-flying offenses like these, over's a no-brainer. I'm sorry. I can't believe that's at 6.5. Could be 7, and I'd still take the over. 7:30 NBCSN, Sabres Flyers. Philadelphia's minus 165. Buffalo's plus 140. Philly minus 1.5 is plus 165. Buffalo plus 1.5 is minus 195. Over under 6.5. Overs plus 105. Unders minus 125. This is a tough one. Normally I'd like to go over on Sabre games because of their goaltending situation. This is tough. And I could see this being competitive. And I could see Philadelphia potentially having a letdown here, but I'm not going to bank on a letdown from Philly. I'm going to lay the puck line with Philly -1.5 plus 165. Carter Hart is just easily better than the combination of Carter Hutton and Linus Ullmark, so I'm going to lay the 1.5 of Philadelphia at plus 165. 8 o'clock, you have the Hurricanes and the Predators. Canes -130, Preds plus 110, over under 5.5, overs -125, unders plus 105. Canes puck line is -1.5 at plus 210, and Nashville plus 1.5 is -250. Tough one here. This is a good game. I'm gonna go with the over again. I don't trust either of these teams' goaltending. I think that this could be a 4-3 game, 4-2 potentially with the empty netter. So, give me over 5.5 between Carolina and Nashville. Sharks Blues. Blues -195. Sharks plus 165. Over under 5.5. Overs -130. Unders plus 110. Sharks plus 1.5 is -165. And Blues -1.5 is plus 140. Oof. I'm going to go with the over 5.5. I just don't trust the Sharks goaltending situation. And I can see the Sharks putting up some goals here too. Over 5.5 I think is realistic. 9 o'clock, Wild Ducks. Interesting game in the Pacific Division. Or, I'm sorry, the West Division. Wild -140, Ducks plus 120, over under 5.5, overs -105, unders -115. Wild puck line -1.5 is plus 210, and Ducks puck line plus 1.5 is -250. I'm going to go and be cute and take the Ducks plus 120 as an underdog here. I think that the Ducks have a potential to surprise some folks this year, but not necessarily make the postseason, but just to be respectable. And when I had my friend Steve on a week and a half ago, we both picked over for the Ducks, and this is a game where I could see them pulling out at home. So give me the Ducks plus 120. Canadians Oilers -110 each way, over under 6.5, and that's -110 each way as well. Canadians puck line -1.5 is plus 220. Edmonton puck line plus 1.5 is -270. I'm taking the over. This is another no-brainer to me. I just think that both offenses are lights out, and I don't see Edmonton putting up only one goal again. Although Carey Price played out of his mind in that game, that's why Montreal won. But I just think this will be a higher scoring game this time around. I don't know who will win, but I'm going to say over 6.5, and I won't be shocked if it's Jake Allen in net tonight, as I could see Carey Price getting a breather. A great game in the West Division, Vancouver and Calgary. Vancouver's plus 135, Calgary's -160, over under 6.5, overs plus 100, unders -120. Canucks puck line plus 1.5 is -200. Calgary puck line -1.5 is plus 170. I'm going to go with the Canucks plus 135 on the money line. Revenge after losing on Friday, although over's enticing as well. You know what? I don't know whether to go over Canucks. I like the Canucks a lot, but I feel better about the over. So give me over 6.5 at even money. I like that actually better than the Canucks play. And I think that the Canucks offense could be a little bit better. And I think that they can get a little bit of revenge on Markstrom this time. So give me over 6.5. I could see this being a 4-3 game easily, maybe even a 5-4 game. 10 o'clock on NBCSN, you have the Coyotes and the Golden Knights. Golden Knights are -200, Coyotes plus 170, over under 5.5, over -120, under even money. Vegas puck line -1.5 is plus 135. Coyotes puck line plus 1.5 is -160. I'm going to take... Oof, this is hard too. I'm going to be cute again. I'm going to take the under at even money. I could see this being a 3-2 game or a 3-1 game, a 3-0 game. Darcy Kemper and Robin Leonard are both good goalies. Ronta played last time. I think Kemper plays this time. And I'm going to go under 5.5 at even money Although plus 170 for the Coyotes is really, really enticing. I'm just not going to pull the trigger because I think Vegas is too good of a team. And I like Vegas' defense a lot. So I'm going to go under 5.5 in Arizona, Vegas for tonight. Now we'll go to the NBA. We'll recap the weekend's games and look ahead to a busy Martin Luther Day slate for today. Friday night, Cavs over the Knicks 106-103. Celtics over the Magic 124-97. Bucks over the Mavs 112-109. Thunder over the Bulls 127-125 in OT. Thunder, by the way, came back from 20-something down to beat the Bulls. What an impressive win led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Jazz over the Hawks 116-92. Lakers over the Pelicans 112-95. Clippers over the Kings 138-100. Wizards, Pistons, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, and Warriors, Suns were all postponed. Saturday, Spurs over the Rockets 103-91. Nets over the Magic 122-115. Raptors over the Hornets 116-113. Pistons over the Heat 120-100. Grizzlies over the 76ers 106-104. No Embiid in that game. Blazers over the Hawks 112-106. Pacers, Suns postponed. Sunday, the most surprising result to me, the Knicks over the Celtics 105-75. Knicks had lost like 5 in a row before this game. And the Celtics had no Tatum, but that's no excuse. 75 points against the Knicks? That's terrible if you're Boston. Tatum or not, you should be able to win that game. Jaylen Brown's had a great year, and you would think would have been the best player on the court in this game. But no, the best player on the court in this game was Julius Randle, not Jaylen Brown. But Jaylen Brown had a good game, but he just didn't have help. And the Knicks outscored him every quarter, too, which was pretty impressive. Bulls over the Mavericks 117-101. Another surprising result in the NBA with a bad team beating a good team. Jazz over the Nuggets 109-105. Pelicans over the Kings 128-103. Clippers over the Pacers 129-96. So an impressive weekend for the Clippers. Cavs Wizards postponed. 76ers Thunder postponed. 76ers Thunder is postponed at the last minute because there's contact tracing with the Sixers, and then there's some with the Grizzlies too with Jonas Valanciunas. So that is a big absence for the the Grizzlies for today. Now look ahead to today's slate. 12 o'clock on NBA TV, you have the Magic and the Knicks from Madison Square Garden. My projection is Knicks by a half, total 212. Obviously, if Markelle Fultz were there, my projection would have been different. It probably would have been Orlando by 1, but it's actually Knicks by a half. And then it is Orlando 2, total 206. I'm going to take the over. I feel better about the over than I do about taking New York. I could see New York laying an egg here potentially too, but I feel better about the over. I think that the Knicks offense is starting to come together a little bit, had a good showing against Boston, and I think their defense will regress a little bit, even though Orlando doesn't have Markelle Fultz, but they still got Nikola Vucevic, who has a history of having good games against the Knicks. So I'm going to go over 206. I have a bigger edge on the over than I do on New York. Timberwolves, Hawks. My line's Hawks 7, total 224.5. And it's Hawks 8, total 227.5. I'm going to take the under. No Karl Anthony Towns, so I'm taking the under. And that game is a 2:30 game on NBA TV. 3 o'clock, Pistons Heat again. My line, Miami 3.5, total 223.5. Meanwhile, it is Miami by 6. I'm taking Detroit plus the 6. No Jimmy Butler. And potentially no Tyler Herro either. If no Tyler Herro, then my projected line goes to 3. So give me the Pistons plus the 6. No, they won't win outright again. I just think that they'll be competitive. Spurs, Trailblazers. My projections, Portland 2.5, total 225.5. Meanwhile, it is Spurs 1.5, total 224. That's a weird line. I wonder if McCollum or Lillard is out because even without Jurkic, I think that the Blazers should still be favored. Oh, McCollum's out. Okay, that makes more sense. So, and he's worth 3 points to the spread. I didn't even know that McCollum was out until now. So, my new projection is Spurs by a half. Total 225.5. So I have a 1 point edge on the Blazers and a 1.5 edge on the over, even without McCollum. Oh, now it went up. All right, the 224.5. I still feel better about the over than I do about the Blazers. So now with McCollum out, my line goes to Spurs by a half, and I have a 1 point edge on the Blazers and a 1 point edge on the over. So I'm going to take the over. I feel better about the over even without McCollum. I think Lillard could have a big game. And the Spurs offense has been sneaky good at times this season. 5 o'clock, TNT, good game. Suns, Grizzlies. Chris Paul and Devin Booker against Ja Morant. My projection is Phoenix 4.5, total 215.5. Meanwhile, I don't see a lineup for this game yet. And I think that's because we don't know if this game is being played yet. So, I'm going to take, right now it says Phoenix 3. We don't have a total. If it's anything, 217, above 217, I'm going to take the under. And if it's anything beneath 214, I will take the over. Next up is a great game on TNT. 7:30, Bucks Nets. My projection with James Harden is Brooklyn by 3, total 231. Meanwhile, it is Milwaukee 2, total 237.5. I have a big edge on the under. 6 point edge. 6.5 point edge. I'm going to take the under. Don't feel good about it. I want to take Brooklyn very bad because I have a 5 point edge on the Nets too. But I'm definitely going to take under 237 as the play. Mavericks Raptors at 7:30. My projection is Dallas 5.5, total 219.5. Toronto's a 3.5 point favorite. I'm taking the Mavs plus 3.5 and plus 130 on the money line. And I wonder if there's injuries with the Mavericks that we don't know about either. Let's check that real quick. Nobody really important other than Hardaway and Richardson. But even without those guys, Dallas should still be favored because they still have the best two players on the court, Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. Houston, Chicago, my projection is Bulls 4, total 229. Meanwhile, it is Bulls by 1. I'm going to lay the 1 with the Bulls. No James Harden. No win for the Rockets. And then 10:30 or 10 o'clock on TNT. Great game. Warriors, Lakers. My projection, Lakers 7.5, total 223. And it's Lakers 8.5, total 226. I'm taking the under. I think that the Lakers defense is one of the more underrated units in the league. And I can't believe I'm saying that because it just is. So give me the under 226, although I do expect the Lakers to win the game. Now I'll move on to college basketball as we'll go over the results from the weekend and look ahead to a very, very small slate for today. Maryland over Wingate, 158. Delaware over Hofstra, 74-56. Oral Roberts over Denver, 88-84. UNC Asheville over Charleston Southern, 83-75. Rice over Old Dominion, 69-59. Bryan over St. Francis, Pennsylvania, 72-63. Mount St. Mary's over Merrimack, 63-52. Manhattan over Niagara, 58-49. Monmouth over Quinnipiac, 92-80 in overtime. Marist over Fairfield, 73-63. Western Kentucky over Marshall, 81-73. UAB over Charlotte, 61-37. IUPUI over Northern Kentucky, 74-69. Winthrop over Longwood, 70-50. Hampton over South Carolina Upstate, 84-74. North Alabama over Kennesaw State, 66-43. Georgia Southern over Troy, 67-64 in overtime. St. Bonaventure over Duquesne, 62-48. Wagner over Long Island, 76-74. Siena over Rider, 78-69. Purdue Fort Wayne over Milwaukee, 81-72. Oakland over Youngstown State, 82-65. Detroit Mercy over Green Bay, 86-61. Cleveland State over Wright State, 66-64. Campbell over Presbyterian, 73-51. Stetson over Liberty, 65-59. Bellarmine over Florida Gulf Coast, 74-60. Arkansas State over Yale Monroe, 74-72. South Alabama over Appalachian State, 73-64. Texas Arlington over Louisiana, 91-86. Texas Rio Grande over Dixie State, 82-49. Bowling Green over Buffalo, 76-69. UC Riverside over Cal Poly, 86-51. Texas State over Little Rock, 63-59. Louisiana Tech over UTSA, 77-66. Lipscomb over North Florida, 84-72. UIC over Robert Morris, 67-53. Southern Miss over Middle Tennessee, 84-54. North Texas over UTEP, 63-33. Santa Barbara over San Diego, 69-52. North Dakota State over North Dakota, 62-45. Number 9, Wisconsin over Rutgers, 60-54. Grand Canyon over Bethesda, 121-62. Utah Valley over Seattle, 93-92 in overtime. Cal Baptist over Tarleton, 83-74. Nevada over Fresno State, 73-57. And Cal State Bakersfield over Hawaii, 60-55. Saturday, big day. Number 21, Ohio State over number 14, Illinois, 87-81. Marquette over St. John, 73-71. Pitt over Syracuse, 96-76. Florida State over North Carolina, 82-75. Navy over American, 87-86 in overtime. Georgia over Ole Miss, 78-74. Number 17, Missouri over Texas A&M, 68-52. Temple over Tulane, 65-57. Colgate over Holy Cross, 95-55. Army over Boston University, 79-59. Hartford over UMBC, 70-63. VMI over the Citadel, 110-103. Ball State over Northern Illinois, 78-58. Northeastern over Charleston, 67-62. Drexel over William & Mary, 82-58. Northern Arizona over Montana, 62-58. Utah State over San Diego State, 64-59. Number 23, Minnesota over number 7, Michigan, 75-57. Butler over number 8, Creighton, 70-66 in overtime. Davidson over LaSalle, 77-53. James Madison over Towson, 81-72. Morgan State over Coppin State, 92-72. Rhode Island over George Mason, 80-70 or 80-60. Bucknell over Lehigh, 75-70. Oral Roberts over Denver, 91-82. Auburn over Kentucky, 66-59. Georgia State over Coastal Carolina, 71-68. New Hampshire over Stony Brook, 81-64. UMass Lowell over Binghamton, 92-78. Old Dominion over Rice, 61-58. Wofford over Chattanooga, 77-59. Mercer over Western Carolina, 78-76. Kent State over Ohio, 89-79. Akron over Toledo, 95-94 in overtime. Montana State over Portland State, 69-64. UNC Greensboro over Samford, 82-70. Colorado over Stanford, 77-64. Oakland over Youngstown State, 81-74. Georgia Southern over Troy, 63-56. Vermont over Maine, 65-30. Northern Colorado over Idaho, 75-61. Southern Utah over Eastern Washington, 99-94. Alabama over Arkansas, 90-59. Number 2 Baylor over number 15 Texas Tech, 68-60. DePaul over Valparaiso, 77-58. Weber State over Yellowstone, 124-44. Grand Canyon over Bethesda, 98-47. Indiana State over Illinois State, 73-65. Bradley over Evansville, 69-60. Air Force over Wyoming, 72-69. Manhattan over Niagara, 58-55. Abilene Christian over Southeast Louisiana, 76-42. Notre Dame over Boston College, 80-70. Lafayette over Loyola Maryland, 77-75. Mississippi State over Florida, 72-69. North Alabama over Kennesaw State, 66-64. Charlotte over UAB, 70-55. North Texas over UTEP, 74-65. FA over FIU, 107-63. Alabama A&M over Alabama State, 70-63. Furman over East Tennessee State, 78-66. St. Mason State over Houston Baptist, 87-80. Central Michigan over Eastern Michigan, 75-64. Morgan State over Southeast Missouri State, 64-50. Norfolk State over Delaware State, 87-76. UCLA over Washington, 81-76. Monmouth over Quinnipiac, 70-63. Fairfield over Marist, 55-52. Murray State over Tennessee Martin, 79-57. Eastern Kentucky over Eastern Illinois, 93-85 in overtime. Belmont over Jacksonville State, 93-91. Liberty over Stetson, 68-58. Nichols over Central Arkansas, 74-72. Arkansas State over UL Monroe, 93-72. Texas State over Little Rock, 67-56. App State over South Alabama, 83-77. Louisiana over Texas Arlington, 68-51. Albany over NJIT, 83-75. Southern Miss over Middle Tennessee, 64-59. UNLV over New Mexico, 77-54. Southern over Arkansas Pine Bluff, 88-53. Number 10 Tennessee over Vandy, 81-61. Number 18 Virginia over number 12 Clemson, 85-50. North Florida over Lipscomb, 72-67. Loyola Chicago over Northern Iowa, 72-57. Colorado State over San Jose State, 88-61. IUPUI over Northern Kentucky, 65-63. UIC over Robert Morris, 66-62 in overtime. Detroit over Green Bay, 68-65. Pacific over Loyola Marymount, 58-49. Alcorn State over Mississippi Valley State, 71-59. Oregon State over Arizona State, 80-79. Siena over Rider, 74-72. New Orleans over McNeese, 99-84. Purdue Fort Wayne over Milwaukee, 81-74. Wright State over Cleveland State, 85-49. Bellarmine over Florida Gulf Coast, 80-63. Louisiana Tech over UTSA, 82-66. Texas Rio Grande over Dixie State, 72-65. Pepperdine over Portland, 80-65. UC Riverside over Cal Poly, 70-53. Stephen F. Austin over Incarnate Word, 83-65. Number 4 Texas over Kansas State, 82-67. Miami over number 16 Louisville, 78-72. BYU over San Francisco, 72-63. Santa Barbara over San Diego, 84-53. North Dakota over North Dakota State, 82-78 in overtime. LSU over South Carolina, 85-80. Grambling over Texas Southern, 78-72. Tennessee Tech over Tennessee State, 74-71. Cal Baptist over Tarleton, 73-67. USC over Washington State, 85-77. Number 1 Gonzaga over St. Mary's, 73-59. So St. Mary's covered. Cal State Northridge over Cal State Fullerton, 86-85. Cal over Utah, 72-63. And Cal State Bakersfield over Hawaii, 83-72. Yesterday, Navy over American, 71-59. UMass Lowell over Binghamton, 77-67. Number 5 Iowa over Northwestern, 96-73. Purdue over Penn State, 80-72. Colgate over Holy Cross, 96-87. Army over Boston University, 76-65. Vermont over Maine, 88-60. UMBC over Hartford, 57-49. Hofstra over Delaware, 68-67. Northeastern over Charleston, 68-66. William & Mary over Drexel, 69-64. Number 11 Houston over UCF, 75-58. Coppin State over Morgan State, 89-75. New Hampshire over Stony Brook, 67-64. Western Kentucky over Marshall, 69-67. UMass over Fordham, 65-46. Tulsa over Memphis, 58-57. Idaho State over Sacramento State, 57-56 in overtime. Indiana State over Illinois State, 74-68. Bradley over Evansville, 86-55. Nevada over Fresno State, 79-65. Bucknell over Lehigh, 77-61. Dayton over George Washington, 67-54. Santa Clara over San Diego, 69-63. Norfolk State over Delaware State, 83-79 in overtime. Loyola Chicago over Northern Iowa, 88-46. Albany over NJIT, 83-71. Number 20 Virginia Tech over Wake Forest, 64-60. Missouri State over Missouri S&T, 94-49. Lafayette over Loyola Maryland, 72-70. Weber State over Tarleton, 94-79. And Cal State Fullerton over Northridge, 85-77. Today's slate is very slim, to say the least. And at 12 o'clock would have been Drake, Missouri State, but that was postponed. 2 o'clock, UNC Wilmington and Towson. My projection is Towson by 1. And Towson is a 1.5 point underdog instead of a favorite. So I have an edge on Towson. I'm going to take Towson plus the 1.5 at minus 104, and I'm taking them plus 112 straight up. 2:30 on Fox, St. John's at number 25 UConn. My projection is UConn by 14. It's UConn 7.5. I'm going to lay the 7.5 at UConn against St. John's. I think St. John's is overrated. I think that podcast friend Derek Brandon Felix would allude to that. And I'm going to lay it with UConn. I think UConn is underrated and should be ranked as they are. 3 o'clock, you have Sacramento State and Idaho State. I project that is Sacramento State by 4.5, and that is not the line. Idaho State's a 1.5-point favorite. I'm taking Sacramento State plus 1.5. I know it's minus 128. And by the way, the money lines are even at minus 108. So I'm going to take minus 108 with Sacramento State straight up, and I'm taking plus 1.5 at minus 128. West Carolina and Stanford. My line is West Carolina by 4.5. And it's 1.5. I'm going to lay to 1.5 at Western Carolina. And it's minus 118. 4 o'clock CBS Sports Network, St. Joe's and LaSalle. My line is LaSalle by 4.5. It's LaSalle by 1.5. I'm going to lay to 1.5 at LaSalle at minus 118. 4:30 Arkansas Pine Bluff and Alcorn State. My line is Alcorn 6. And it's Alcorn 3.5. I'm going to lay to 3.5 at Alcorn at minus 115. 5:30 Mississippi Valley State and Southern. My line is Southern 20. And it's Southern 22.5. I can't believe I'm doing this. I don't think I've taken the worst team in college basketball all year, but I have to. We have a 2.5-point edge on them. So I've taken Mississippi Valley State plus 22.5 at a slightly juiced number at minus 112. 7 o'clock ESPN, Florida State at number 16, Louisville. My line is Louisville by 3, and Louisville's favored by 2.5. Total's 140.5. I'm going to take... I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to take the under. I think both these teams play good defense, and I think this game could be played into the 130. So I'm going to take the under 140.5 in this game. And I'm screwed if this game goes to overtime, by the way. And I think that's a distinct possibility. The Citadel and UNC Greensboro. My line is Greensboro by 11, and it's 13.5. I'm going to take the Citadel plus 13.5 at minus 118. VMI and East Tennessee State. My line is East Tennessee State by 6. And it's 7.5. Total 143.5. I'm going to take the over. I think these two teams are very good offensively. And I think this game could be played potentially into the 160s. So, can be over 143.5 between VMI and East Tennessee State. Jacksonville State, SIU Edwardsville postponed. 8:30 Grambling Prairie View. My line is Grambling by 5, and Prairie View A&M is favored by 4.5. I'm taking Grambling plus the 4.5 at minus 105 and plus 180 straight up. I think Grambling's been playing well in SWAC play so far, so give me Grambling plus the 4.5 at minus 105 and plus 180 straight up. 9 o'clock ESPN, number 6 Kansas and number 2 Baylor. Definitely the game of the night. One of the best games all season. My line, Baylor 4.5. It's Baylor 9.5. I'm taking the Jayhawks plus 9.5. I don't think I faded Baylor all year, but I'm doing it here. I'm taking Kansas plus the 9.5 at minus 120. It's probably going to go down 9. I still like it. I think Baylor will probably win, but I just think this will be a good game. I could see them winning this game by 4 or 5 points, maybe even 3 points. Plus 380 straight up's enticing for the Jayhawks, but I have to take it just against the spread. So we Kansas plus 9.5 against Baylor. Wyoming and Air Force. My line is Wyoming 3.5. And it's Wyoming by 3.5. Total 136.5. I'm going to take the over. Mountain West teams normally go over with a couple exceptions. I think this is an over game. I think both teams can score into the 70s. So give me over 136.5 at minus 108. And last but not least, Fox Sports 9:30, New Mexico and UNLV. My line's UNLV by 8.5. UNLV is favored by 12.5. I'm taking New Mexico plus 12.5 against UNLV. I think that this game will be competitive, unlike last time. So give me New Mexico plus the 12.5 and minus 118 against UNLV. Although I do expect UNLV to win this game. Now we'll do a little bit of NFL coaching news. I had college in my head because I'm thinking about Urban Meyer. Obviously, he got hired by the Jaguars over the weekend. There was talks with Raheem Morris going over to be on Urban Meyer's staff. He talked about the Jets' hire of Robert Saleh on Friday. And then you got the Falcons who hired Arthur Smith away from the Titans. I think that's an inspiring hire. Arthur Smith got a lot out of Ryan Tannehill. Maybe they feel that Matt Ryan still has something left in the tank, and maybe he can get like the last bit of inches out of Matt Ryan. And I think this is a Matt Ryan hire, and I think they intend on keeping Matt Ryan for a couple years. He has the lofty contract, obviously, and he has weapons around him with Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, and Todd Gurley. So I think that this could potentially work, and I'm interested to see who he brings on board. The Chargers made what I thought was a stunning hire last night, as they brought in Rams defensive coordinator the Rams defensive coordinator to be their head coach. Very interesting hire. Brandon Staley's his name. Obviously, he worked under Sean McVay the last couple of years. And he really got a lot out of that Rams defense, which was one of the best defenses in the league all season, led by Aaron Donald up front and Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. I think that this could potentially work. I don't love this hire all that much because I think they should have went with somebody like an Arthur Smith or a Brian DeBall of the Bills to help develop Justin Herbert. There's talks about them bringing in Jason Garrett from the Giants, although I would not have liked that hire at all because obviously we saw Daniel Jones regress last year under him, and then you probably could have saw the same with Justin Herbert. So I don't think Jason Garrett would have been a smart hire either. So Brandon Staley, very interesting. And the Chargers defense was a unit I thought underachieved this past season as well, and probably was the biggest reason for Anthony Lynn's downfall, other than them losing a bunch of close games. So Brandon Staley, interesting hire. I don't know if I love it all that much. I love the Arthur Smith hire by Atlanta, the Saleh hire by the Jets. I thought was really good, and I liked the Urban Meyer hire in Jacksonville. And the Lions are hiring Dan Campbell, who is the Saints' assistant coach under Sean Payton. He's helped out with tight ends and their offense. I think this is a mysterious hire. This could be the Joe Judge, potentially, of next year. The, who's that type of guy that's worked under a good coaching staff for a long time. Obviously, Judge under Belichick in New England, and now Campbell under Sean Payton in New Orleans. I think this is an interesting hire, and I'm interested to see what the Lions do. Do they keep Matt Stafford? They're in a similar spot as Atlanta in a sense that they have a veteran quarterback who really hasn't been that great or healthy in Stafford's case in a while. And so that's another hire I consider interesting. I kind of like that hire better than the Chargers hire, even though Staley has a good reputation from working under McVay, and Campbell has a good reputation for working under Sean Payton. So some interesting hires for sure. Philadelphia is yet to fill its vacancy at head coach. There's a couple others that still have yet to hire, like the Texans, who are talking to Eric Bieniemy, which would be an outstanding hire for them. Bieniemy deserves a job. He's deserved a job for a while now, and he's done a fantastic job with that Chiefs offense through the years, helping develop Patrick Mahomes into the best player in the league like he is today. So I think Bieniemy absolutely deserves a shot. Josh McDaniels has gotten some traction with the Eagles. I personally don't like Josh McDaniels. I think he's one of the more overrated people in the NFL. And I don't think he had a good year this year with Cam Newton. And if anything, Tom Brady made Josh McDaniels into the hot commodity, just like Peyton Manning made Adam Gase into a hot commodity. And there's a reason Josh McDaniels never got a second chance. He almost did in Indianapolis, but he backed out of that job because of the uncertainty of Andrew Luck. But you could argue that came back to haunt McDaniels a little bit, or you could argue he did the right thing because Andrew Luck wound up retiring and the Colts still haven't won anything. They made the playoffs a couple times under Frank Reich, but didn't have playoff success yet. Although Frank Reich's a great coach, as we know, and that was a great hire. But I just don't like McDaniels at all. He was a failure in Denver. He's another Pat Shurmur, just the failure head coach that it should be a coordinator. And Leslie Frazier's another one of those guys, Jim Schwartz. Guys that just should just be coordinators. And then speaking of coordinator hires, the Cowboys hired Dan Quinn to be their defensive coordinator. Interesting hire. Obviously, he could rejuvenate himself a little bit by becoming coordinator, just like Todd Bowles with the Bucs. Really helped his reputation back a little bit by doing a great job getting a lot of that out of that Bucs defense. And I think that Dan Quinn could do the same with the Cowboys. And they do have some talent on defense, obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence. And then the linebackers, Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith. So he has some guys to work with, and the Cowboys have a high draft pick this year, and they should go defense with that pick, quite frankly. And they should re-sign Dak Prescott. And obviously, we'll talk more about the NFL offseason when the time comes, but an interesting hire for the Cowboys, bringing in Dan Quinn to be their defensive coordinator, replacing Mike Nolan, who was the fall guy for the Cowboys this season, and rightfully so, because let's face it, the reason why the Cowboys underachieved this year was their defense, not because of their offense. And although Dak Prescott got hurt, and they probably win the division if Dak Prescott's healthy, but their defense let them down in so many games this year. And including games where Dak was there against the Browns and against a couple other teams as well. Almost let them down against the Giants, but they found the way to win that game. But, yeah, Mike Nolan out, Dan Quinn in. And then we talked about the Steelers firing Fitchner on Friday's show. And then there could be a couple more changes coming with some of the teams that got eliminated. Maybe the Ravens make a couple coaching changes. We shall see. I could see a world where the Saints make a couple coaching changes. Maybe Dennis Allen gets the hook with the Saints or something like that. I could see that potentially happening because the Saints defense sort of underachieved this year. And speaking of coordinators that were not successful head coaches, but have really turned themselves into good coordinators, Mike Patton with the Packers, I think, has done a really good job with their defense. So we could potentially see some coordinator changes with some of the teams that got eliminated from the weekends, as we saw with the Rams. They have to hire a new defensive guy, but that's for good reason, though, as Staley obviously is now the new head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers. Now I'll do my best bet of the day, brought to you by FanDuel. Had a great betting weekend in the NFL, as I alluded to at the top of the show. And my best bet for today is in the National Hockey League, and that is the over 6.5 in Winnipeg, Toronto. I know it's a juice number at minus 120, but I love it. I think, as I said, two very erratic goalies and two elite offenses in the Jets and the Maple Leafs. I think that this is over easily. Even though it's a juice number, I just paid more on the bet because it was juice. So give me the over 6.5 in Jets Maple Leafs for tonight for my best bet. And that's it for the show today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the results from hockey, basketball, and both the NBA and college, and looking ahead to tomorrow. And we'll do a post-mortem for the 4 teams that were eliminated over the weekend in the NFL, which were the Rams, the Ravens, the Saints, and the Browns. And then we'll do NBA power rankings tomorrow as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.